Hello everyone, today you will hear an interesting story. Inga and I have been married for 25 years and today we celebrated our silver wedding anniversary. My wife loves to be the center of attention no matter where we are. At a New Year's Eve party, at a restaurant, or just as a guest. Apparently she honestly thought the whole world should revolve around her. Today was her special day and she greeted the guests at the door with grace, accepting congratulations and friendly kisses like a socialite. I stood behind her, feeling like this event was the least of my concerns. Inga, you are adorable, her boss Victor said in a nasal voice as he put his hand on her arm. But that wasn't enough for him. He also kissed her on the cheek. I never liked that guy. Something rotten always seemed to shine through his super fancy suit. When he finally let go of my wife, he nodded coldly at me and made his way into the hall. My already bad mood quickly turned into a terrible one. Inga, couldn't you do without that jerk? I grudgingly looked at my wife. Yura, do not spoil my evening, she wrinkled her pretty face. You probably forgot that it's my night too, I said through gritted teeth, greeting the next guest. In general, the evening was completely ruined for me. The banquet began and the guests made toasts. I firmly endured these burdens, dreaming of hurrying to get away from this feast of life. Then the dancing began, and my wife wouldn't leave her boss's side. She chirped something in his ear and he stroked her back affectionately. To the unsophisticated onlooker, it might have seemed like it was their silver wedding day, not mine. And you put up with it? My little brother's voice boomed out from behind me. I shrugged. It's up to Inga here. If the bitch doesn't want to, the cable won't jump up. I thought that lewd proverb was the most appropriate. What do I have to punch him in the face? I asked. I don't care if I have to punch him in the face. Dima was determined. Dima, at least you don't have to strain. I patted my brother on the shoulder and went to the table. There was a buzz in the hall as the guests began to talk louder, jokes and laughter erupting. The party was drawing to a close and at last, Inga took the floor. She talked at length about her work and thanked her grinning boss standing beside her several times, but I almost didn't hear her speak. My gaze was fixed on the mirror-covered wall behind my wife, where it was clearly visible how self-indulgent Victor was. Squeezing her ass, Inga made no attempt to remove his hand. This was too much. I got up silently from the table and in front of everyone, walked through the hall and out into the foyer. I didn't look back once when I stepped outside. My phone was off before I even got to my car. I started the engine, turned around, and drove out onto the night highway. I still had some things to do at home, but I quickly packed my bag, left my wedding ring on the kitchen table, and slammed the front door. The house had belonged to my wife before we were married, so there was no point in arguing for it. True, I had practically rebuilt it over a quarter of a century, but that meant nothing in our feminist courts. I drove west on the Republican Highway and soon checked into a motel not far from town. The next day was Saturday, but I drove to work. I couldn't be alone with my thoughts. I had no doubts that my wife and her boss were having an affair. The only question was how long would it last? I ordered the guard not to let Inga in under any circumstances. The last thing I wanted to hear today was her squeaky voice. The day's work was coming to an end when Inga's car pulled into the parking lot in front of my office. There was nothing to do. A meeting was inevitable. Inga was waiting for me, leaning against the front door of my car. Cut the crap, Yura. You're acting like a pimply kid. Here, put your wedding ring back on, she said, holding out my open palm, which contained my engagement ring. Thank you for your concern, dear. You can keep the ring, I replied, opening the door of my car. Yura, you're just ridiculous. Enough already, Inga came right up to me. Fuck you, and go back to your idiot chief. I'm done with you, I said, gently moving her aside and getting into the car. Because of what? Because I was paying attention to our guests? Inga began to boil over. If you want to believe it, fine. I turned the ignition key. I don't understand what's going on here, Inga said, ready to cry. You don't understand, but you let yourself be squeezed in front of everyone. Making out on the dance floor, I replied, my anger rising. Now I understand why I left you. Now get the fuck out of my way, I said, slamming the door. Inga looked at me in silence as I drove away. After extending my motel room for a week, I ate dinner at a small cafe. I watched a little TV and went to bed. Sunday passed me by without a trace. On Monday, Inga's approach changed. Under the wipers on the windshield of my car was a note. "Yura, my love, forgive me. I was wrong, but I'm clean before you. Please come home. I love you. Inga." Tuesday after work, the unforgettable Victor was waiting for me in the parking lot. "Dude, you got it all wrong. You can't be that impressionable," he said with a smug grin. He tried to grab my shoulder. "You do realize that a beautiful woman can't belong to just one." I stepped aside and sent him away. "You miserable asshole. I have slept and will continue to sleep with your wife. And you cuckold, you will carry me beer." He shouted the last phrase in the wake of my car as it drove away. I had to prove it. My suspicions were confirmed. I wish I had recorded it. On Wednesday, Inga showed up again. "Darling, please come home. In this outfit, you look like you're going to a panel," I said angrily. Inga grumbled, "Yura, do not be rude. I dress like this for you." "I do not think so. Your boss now shares you with others." "Do you know that he bragged that he slept with you?" "He's lying. I've been faithful to you." "I doubt it. I don't know you anymore. I don't like you anymore. If you add it all up, I don't love you anymore." It was a 25-year-old mistake. I pulled out a pack of cigarettes, my hands shaking. "Don't say that. I love you." Tears spurted from Inga's eyes. "I could die for you. Think of our children. What will happen to them?" Inga pressed her palms to her face and sobbed. Part of me wanted to hold her. Subconsciously, I still loved her. A quarter of a century hadn't gone by in vain. "I need time, Inga. I'll stay at the motel. Get my nerves straightened out. Then we'll work it out." Tears were streaming down Inga's cheek. "Please come home. I love you. I love you too, Inga. But I need to calm down, Yura. Please don't seek comfort from anyone else. You don't need revenge, because I've always been faithful to you. I love you. Good night." "I love you too, Inga. Be careful on the road." I walked down the colorful oriental carpeted corridor of the Plaza Hotel, located in an upscale neighborhood of the city. "Well done, great choice," I said to myself and knocked on the door. I waited. No one answered. I knocked again. Finally, I heard some movement on the other side of the door. The door was opened by a tall, imposing man in a bathrobe with still wet hair. The surprised smile on his face was replaced by a contemptuous sneer. We hadn't said anything to each other yet when I heard the familiar voice. "I don't know if you're ready for this, lover, but we can do it again right now," he said. Over his shoulder, I saw Inga come out into the hallway, wrapped in just a towel. I hit him and her boss slowly slumped to the marble floor without realizing it. A small trickle of blood ran from his mouth. It looked like I had knocked out some of his teeth. I entered the room with nothing but contempt for the woman in front of me. Inga clung to the towel like a life preserver, covering her mouth with her other hand. "What a lying bitch you are," I said. "To think I imagined we had a chance to make things right." "I didn't lie to you," Inga choked back tears. "It didn't mean anything. We were just helping each other." "Yep, I didn't lie to you," I replied. "I just didn't tell you the whole truth so I wouldn't hurt you." She looked at me in horror. I spat under her feet. What else could I say? Behind me, the chief hissed. I put my foot in his crotch to solidify the subject. "No, Yura, please, no," Inga pleaded. But Yura wasn't screaming anymore, he was howling. I silently slammed the door. Dear listeners, your support is very important to us. If you like our story, please like, comment, and subscribe. It's very motivating for us. We need your feedback to improve our content.